Bai and Lillian were in the last session, so I mean, they've been introduced. So you want to just tell us about yourself and then the symposium, and then we take it from there. Please.
Thank you very much. Good morning from where I am, and good day to you and everyone, you know, depending on where you are. My name is Banke Olagbegi-Oloba. I'm a law lecturer, a mediator, a trainer, and a student. Okay, so I'm a lawyer called to the Nigerian Bar Association. I'm a 2022 Weinstein JAMS International Fellow, and a visiting scholar with UC Hastings Law's Negotiation and Dispute Resolution Center for Negotiation and Dispute Resolution. So I'm so glad to be here right now to discuss colonization, decolonization, and mediation. So basically, I'm going to look at what was prevalent in Nigeria, because as a Nigerian, I will be coming from, you know, my background, the Nigerian perspective. Yeah, so pretty much I would speak about what the mode of dispute resolution in Nigeria before colonization, briefly on what happened during colonization, and also where we are right now. Nigeria as a country, you know, has the largest population in Africa, with an estimated population of over 2 million people. You know, Nigeria is also the country with, it's a country which has been regarded as having the sixth largest population in the world. Now, currently, the country is divided into 36 states. Nigeria is a federal republic, and it operates currently a constitutional system of government. Now, Nigeria was colonized by the British Empire from the mid-19th century until 1960, when Nigeria gained our independence. Prior to British rule in Nigeria, the country was made up of about 350 ethnic nationalities, you know, plus or minus, described as empires, caliphates, kingdoms, chiefdoms, city-states, and village republics, you know, and they had, and each ethnic group, you know, being governed by a multiplicity of customs, you know, which were their ground norm. So each of the territories that we had then, which now constitutes the large country Nigeria, you know, had their own system through which justice was administered. And I must tell you that the systems, you know, were very beautiful, although they were not without limitations, which could have been improved, you know, upon, rather than being relegated behind and then adopting, I mean, a foreign legal system. I'll still speak more on that. So in most of the parts of the territories, you know, that now constitutes the northern states, because in Nigeria today, we have the northern area, we have the southern area, we have the southwest, and then we have the eastern part of Nigeria. So in most of the territories, which now constitutes northern states, the principal law that were administered, you know, by the courts before the country was colonized, you know, were Muslim laws of the Maliki school, and the main source, you know, were and still are in writing. While in the territories which now constitute the southern states, and in some parts of the territories that now constitute northern states, you know, we had unwritten customary laws. Remember that I said that what we had then were, you know, Nigeria, there was no one Nigeria, but we had different ethnic groups, you know, and they were plus or minus around 350 different ethnic groups. So you can imagine how large Nigeria is right now. You can imagine the various ethnic conflicts that we will be having right now as a result of the marriage of inconvenience, which happened as a result of colonization. Now, before colonization, the various territories consisted, as I earlier mentioned, of politically and legally independent tribes. They had their well-established structures of administering civil and also criminal justice. Now, the nature of each community's judicial machinery was dictated by its historical past, political structure, and socio-cultural values. They all aimed not at doing justice in the modern sense, of the word, but rather at maintaining peace and order, the promotion of social welfare, and the sustenance of the social equilibrium in each society or ethnic concerned. Now, the prime motive was the reconciliation of disputes. Basically, how disputes, would be addressed in a friendly manner. Simply put, the idea of justice, as the Europeans later discovered, was in some cases opposed to the English notion of what is fair and just. Now, trade between the Europeans and Nigerians, or people who were in those various ethnic groups that now constitute Nigeria, the present-day Nigeria, trade brought them together. And settling these trade disputes necessitated, now speaking, being the devil's advocate, necessitated the introduction of English justice system, English way of administering justice. They were not familiar with what they met on ground in Nigeria, and they dominated in a friendly manner. They introduced what they felt was just and right, and that is where I have a problem. As a person, well, I always am open, I'm very friendly, and I believe that I want to hear you. I want to accommodate you as much as possible, but I don't think I would like it if, while trying to accommodate you, you want to dominate me, and then you want to tell me that I should forget about me, put all about me behind, and then accept everything about you. I think the European then and the leaders, who the Nigerian leaders of blessed memory, I think they could have probably sought a way of discussing, okay, this is us, this is what we have right now. Let us look at what you're trying to introduce to us. Let's weigh the two, and then let's look for a common ground, but accept us, you can teach us, we can learn from you, if you think what you see us, practicing is not good enough. But they didn't do that. They accepted everything that the Europeans, introduced in terms of the court system that we now have, which is, predominant in Nigeria. So we accepted English law, common law, statutes of general application, in England before 1900. We adopted all this, and well, gradually and steadily, the colonial, the Europeans, gained more ground in Nigeria, and the leaders then allowed it. So, although some fought back, it's a pretty long history, which I don't think I would want to go into right now. But basically, and to cut a very long story short, they dominated. Now, Nigeria gained her independence in 1960. What happened at that point? At that point, all these English laws and acts that were introduced to Nigeria before 1960 were domesticated, they were reenacted Some were just, modified, but very few were repealed. But even if you look at those that were repealed, you would still see copious similarities from these laws that we said we had repealed. So who is deceiving who? That's the question for me. So for me, although Nigeria claims to have gained independence, but I always say that in the true sense of it, Nigeria is yet to become truly independent, because the current legal system that we have does not in any way reflect the indigenous, the traditional mode of dispute resolution that is original to the various tribes which now constitutes the present day Nigeria. So, for instance, today we have, the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have the three arms of government, executive, legislative arm, and also the judicial arm. We have stare decisis, we have judicial precedent, we have, this legal system that is still very, very, very similar to the legal system in England. Although Nigeria operates a multi-legal system, we have the customary law, we have Sharia law, and they have these structures within the court system. But then the Supreme Court of Nigeria still reflects the English, model of court system, which means that the current day Nigeria, although has tried to appreciate the diversity in the country, and also, try to bring on board and accommodate various interests, various ethnic and religious interests, judicial-wise, what we still have dominating in the country is still, the foreign system which we borrowed and, tried to adopt. Now, the question that I keep asking myself is, after 1960, why haven't Nigeria as a country, come together to say, okay, let us come up with a constitution that will really and truly and very sincerely, very, very sincerely reflect the true needs of the people in the country? And this question would, give you an insight into the reason why today we have different ethnic conflicts in the country, because of that marriage of inconvenience. I always tell people when they say, oh, the Europeans, they got us to where we are today, I always tell them that, yes, well, maybe in the beginning, I wasn't there, so I didn't have a choice to influence anything there. But right now, we now have the choice, to come back together and influence things positively, and be selfless. And because I believe that if we do that in Nigeria, the various ethnic problems and conflicts and crises that we have might not be as much as they are right now. And in fact, they might not even be there. Now, coming to mediation. A school of thought in Nigeria believes that alternative dispute resolution shouldn't be called that, but it's African dispute resolution. Why? Because the indigenous ways of resolving disputes in Nigeria, let me be specific, in Nigeria is not different from what we have today as negotiation, mediation, early neutral evaluation, or even arbitration. So pre-colonial societies, resolved disputes. How? By first trying to settle amongst themselves, which is what we know to be negotiation today. And if that failed, they, go higher by seeking assistance of their kinsmen. And that might not be far from what we know as mediation. And if that fails, some would, revert to family head, some to the chiefs within the community, and then the highest hierarchy then was either the king in the Yoruba land or the emir in the northern part of Nigeria, or they have these high chiefs in the eastern part too. So that was this level of kingdoms or of traditional leadership were like the apex courts, and what they did would be very, very akin to what we have as arbitration, or what they were doing then, were very similar to what we have as arbitration today. So whenever I'm joking with my friends and colleagues, do you know what I always say? I would say that the Europeans came to us, they saw our indigenous ways of resolving disputes. They told us that these ways, were and are still barbaric, against public conscience, morality, and etc., etc., good conscience and all. And so they made us to see the beauty in what they had in England. And well, for one reason or the other, our leaders, embraced that. But I would say they did that for selfish reasons. And I have my reasons for that, but that's just by the way. They adopted it. But do you know what happened? These European leaders or Europeans, they went back to their country. They continued with their own system of administering justice. And then they started having issues with their own system. They started having issues with litigation, issues such as delay, congestion, and all. So they sat back and they started thinking of ways to address these problems. I might be wrong, but they remembered that they saw some things, they saw a couple of systems and styles in the various countries that they colonized. They sat down, they redefined this, they actually adopted it, they took it, which means they learned from us, but they are not admitting it, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. So they developed it, and do you know what? We are now at the stage of trying to say, oh, yes, litigation has failed in Europe, in some other countries, and so they adopted ADR. So now we are having problems with litigation too in Nigeria. Let us also see whether we can use ADR or adopt ADR or apply ADR mechanisms, to mitigate the challenges of heavy dockets, delay, congestion, and all. And I always, make this joke whenever I'm facilitating, especially that now the Europeans are no more leading us. Now we claim to have our independence. Can't we just sit back and just compare what was obtainable before Nigeria's contact with colonialism, what was obtainable before that contact? And where are we going right now? Are there links? Are there similarities? For me, the answer is yes. So do we still want to follow them and adopt and accept this system that they have designed, learning from what they have seen from us, and which they have now tagged ADR? Should we, adopt it copiously, which would mean that we'll still continue to repeat the mistakes that got us to where we are currently? Or should we, at this stage, sit back, rethink things? And if rethinking things would, mean that we would, first of all, have to amend our constitution, why not let's do it genuinely? Now, don't get me wrong, we have had a series of constitutional amendments in Nigeria, but for me, what has been happening does not truly reflect the true needs, wants, interests, and take of an average Nigerian. And some people are arguing this, but the government just seems to be deaf to the predicament of a larger part of Nigerians. Because right now in the eastern part, there's this Biafra movement, which the government is trying to suppress. There's this Odua movement within the western part, which the government is trying to suppress. They keep saying that let's go our separate ways. We can cope again with this marriage of inconvenience. Why? Because not only in terms of mediation, but the country seems to be getting things wrong. And I've seen, I've carefully sat back and, observed some African countries. Some of them are beginning to retrace their steps, and they're beginning to bring back the old ways. And they're saying at this stage that, okay, let's diversify. If we have some people who still want to go the European way or the way of those who colonized them, because we have not every country in Nigeria was colonized by Europe. We have some Francophone countries in Africa. So some are saying that let's try, but what we want is that we should have predominantly things that are original to us, which means that we should try and bring back the old norms, practices, beliefs, doctrines, and all, and then let's marry it with what we received if the people want that, which means let's do what the people want. There's no country in Africa that has, 100% achieved that goal, but some are trying already. But in Nigeria, in my opinion, we have not even yet started looking at that already. And that is one of the reasons why I really appreciate this session. Now, speaking of mediation, in Nigeria today, we have 36 states, as I earlier mentioned. And out of these 36 states, 21 already adopted the multi-door courthouse system. Now, when I was introducing myself, I mentioned that I'm a student. So I'm a PhD student of Stellenbosch University in South Africa. And my PhD research is focused on the impact of court-connected ADR on administration of civil justice in Nigeria. And I'm doing a comparison between Nigeria, South Africa, and the United States of America. Why the US? Because the model of court-connected ADR that we have in Nigeria today, is fashioned after what exists in America. So I'm like, okay, let's retrace things. Let's sit back. Let's evaluate and reevaluate, and let's even see whether it's working at all. Are we achieving our goals at all? And so, out of these 21 multi-door courthouses, I am looking at 6 multi-door courthouses that cut across geopolitical zones in Nigeria. And I've come to realize that the multi-door courthouses that are doing better in Nigeria, although they are not well known. Why? Because most of them don't have a website, or they're not, showcasing what they're doing. But those that are doing best, in my opinion, based on my research as at today, are those who did not adopt the multi-door courthouse system or the multi-door court system, wholly. Like, they didn't just bring it and then domesticate. They sat down, they studied it, they studied the style, norms, beliefs, and way of life of their own people, and then they came up with something which is original and which will be more acceptable to their own people. And I will mention Borno Amicable Settlement Corridor. Borno State is in the northern part of Nigeria, and it's a state that has been really affected, by this Boko Haram insurgency right now in Nigeria. Now, when that problem struck the state, judges were killed, police officers were killed, and those who were not killed, fled the state for safety reasons. But some didn't leave, and of course, the indigenous people were still there. So some leaders, especially the judiciary, the CJ, then chief judge, then, probably sat back and thought of the way out. Justice must still continue to run within the state, notwithstanding the problems that were, plaguing the state and are still plaguing the state, but the thing has really reduced in the states right now. So they came up, well, they constituted this group, this committee, and saddled them with the responsibility of looking into how they can probably adopt a multiple courthouse system. And the group, as at today, from the study, they have about 4 doors. They have the mediation door, arbitration door, 3 major doors: arbitration, mediation, and then they have one called sulhu door. Sulhu door. And sulhu door, in my interpretation, sulhu is just an Islamic way of mediating disputes. So that state is majorly a Muslim state. So they did not just adopt the multi-door courthouse system, mutantis mutandis, like they didn't adopt it as it were. They studied it, they studied their own community and the indigenous people, and they tried to come up with something that is very closely related to what the people are used to, what aligns with the people's belief. And from the data that I've gathered, they have the highest number of cases that they hear. In fact, that is the only state from my research who has that fear of delay. Why? Because people, would come in, they walk in. So court referral is not a major way of, entertaining disputes at that amicable settlement corridor. People walk in by themselves, submit themselves to that center, submit their disputes to that center, and they are happy from the research I conducted. They are happy with the outcome of these disputes. And this has led me to start reconsidering things within the southwestern region of Nigeria. I am a princess from Ondo State. I grew up seeing my parents mediate. Maybe that might be the justification, or I don't know, maybe that's where my passion for mediation or for ADR, maybe that's where I should trace it to. So I grew up seeing my daddy, going to what we call Igbimaleli, which is a traditional court. You have chiefs and they try to settle disputes amicably. I've had 1 or 2 instances of, my dad would call us sometimes, oh, go to so place where you're coming back, come and wait for me, I'll pick you up, we'll go home together. And I've had 1 or 2 opportunities of sitting and watching, as young as I was then. And linking that to ADR today, I have this to say: the traditional rulers in Nigeria are doing a lot. But is the justice system paying attention to what they do? No. The justice system is focusing more on litigation. An average Nigerian who wants to resolve disputes would want to adopt litigation over and above any other mode of dispute resolution. Why? Because they have been made to believe that that is the best way of resolving disputes. So there's the need for a paradigm change. There's the need for more advocacy orientation. There's the need for more of something like this. There's the need for us to show our children that what you see today, the children and the youth, is not actually what, historically is indigenous to us. Maybe, just maybe, if we continue to show them, maybe through documentaries, and then we reduce all these, if the actors and actresses in Nigeria, the Nollywood, the entertainment and film industry is able to look inwards and try to, showcase what we are, then the good things that the good norms, beliefs, practices, that are indigenous to us in Nigeria, maybe it will really help. It might awaken the consciousness of someone out there, but we really need to start talking about this. Don't get me wrong, please. I'm not saying that litigation is bad. And I've not said anything about that. But what I'm saying is that we should pay more attention to mediation, to the way disputes were resolved before we had contact with colonization in Nigeria. So I am saying that the multi-door courthouse system is a very beautiful one, but maybe we should do better by, it's okay. As a researcher, I do a lot of comparative study. It will help in stimulating the mind. You see how things are being done in other jurisdictions. But no, the point where I would have a rethink is that point where someone would want to say, because this is working in country A, I should go there and adopt it like that. What if what your people want is quite different from that? What if the way, the life and everything about your own people want something different? Why not just learn what you can learn, but come back, not forgetting what is original to you, and trying as much as possible to just build upon and improve what is indigenous to you. So that's my own personal, that's where I am personally on this issue right now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Banke, what all you brought in is really something which this is what we need to bring in. Before that, what Biohead and Lillian were bringing in, I think these are the things that we really needed from this symposium. But I'll tell you, the important thing which I keep saying is that the mediation that is coming in, like you said, in Nigeria, it's again another colonization to bring in that mediation as the way it is practiced somewhere else in the world. And I think the Nigerian community, legal community, first of all, is falling for that trap. I see certifications being the thing to look at. And there is Nanchang, who was in the World Mediators Conference. He's also listening here. He wanted to come in. I said, you watch it on YouTube. He gave a very passionate speech. I would call it a speech, where he said, this class distinction is being created. The people in the villages, those mediators are going to be looked at as the lower caste, and the ones who are accredited are going to, and very nicely. And tomorrow, then I find out he himself is doing certifications and things like that. That's why I didn't call him in. I said, you listen to it on YouTube. So that, I think we have to be careful that this concept of, again, another colonization, because in the litigation, in the court system, the colonizer wanted that my person is going to be your representative. So the one who I designate as a lawyer is the one who's going to represent you. So that layer that was created by the colonizer, the same thing should not happen in mediation, that we will tell you, be it, I'm saying, be it the court system saying so and so will be a mediator, or if through certifications. Let's not fall for that trap, because I was speaking before bias session, there was Beverly from Philippines, and I was telling her this, that these people at the grassroots level in villages and communities who are already mediators, they're already doing mediation, they should not be looked at as an inferior mediator, and this other person comes in as being the mediator. So I think that part of it, we really have to be careful, because I see that this happening. And I think what you brought in as to, let's look at it from the culture of our place, and let's look at it how we want to develop mediation in our place. I think that's important. Multi-door courthouse, I'm saying concept might have been good, but what has really happened is that, first of all, of course, like you said, let's not take it as it is, and some region has actually looked at it from their own point of view and did it. But the important thing that's happening in the multi-door courthouse, which is the worst thing for mediation, is that the mediator gets nothing, close to nothing. I'm not saying nothing. So I think in the Lagos, they get some $40 for the entire mediation. So what is really being pushed is that the basically devaluing of mediators and mediation. It's almost a free thing. So I think that's not been good for mediation. I think we need to relook that, because I'm saying that, why don't you do mandatory, they say the arbitration, are the arbitrators getting the same as the mediators are getting in the multi-door courthouse? I don't think so. I don't think so, but you can check it, let me know. Because are you saying that the mediators are inferior, that you will give them $40 and you can pay the arbitrator whatever? I don't know how that works, so we'll have to have a look at that for sure. But that
Can I quickly say something on that,
yeah,
please?
please Banke, please come in any time. Yeah.
Thank you. I looked at that too in the course of my qualitative data gathering. And like I mentioned, I looked at 6 states in Nigeria. Now, Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse was established in 2002, and this is 2022. They have celebrated their 20 years of existence. The good thing about very few of other multi-door courthouses is that they learned from the mistakes of Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. And I want to say this openly. Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse should take out the time to be humble and then go out and see what those who learned from them are doing differently now and try to upgrade. It's very important. Otherwise, something that I don't want to mention might happen. Some other states are coming up brilliantly and beautifully. Now, the notion behind what mediators are being paid at the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse currently, the notion, the rationale behind that is a very brilliant and beautiful one. Expanding access to justice at little or no cost, helping especially the indigent to access justice, very quickly at an affordable rate. But nobody has been looking at, just like you rightly mentioned, the true interest of these mediators. Because if we're not looking at it, then we should be ready for so many problems in the next few years. And I'm sure that we don't want that. Now, some states, for instance, in Ondo State, do you know what they're doing? They have differentiated, they have different tracks. They have this track for indigents. They have this track for normal business, like the normal mediation business that you know. So they want to try to build their multi-door courthouse in such a way, and this is personal to me based on what I've seen. My take home from the research that I conducted. Now they want to build their multi-door courthouse to become attractive to the extent that mediation in that multi-door courthouse would be a go-to for an average man or for almost everybody within the state. So right now they're trying to build the system, to build the integrity of the system so that they will gain the trust of the people. So when you're bringing your disputes, they want you to understand that litigation is not the only way through which you can resolve it. There are so many other doors attached to this door. Now, you believe that you don't want mediation because you believe it doesn't have the force of law. But the beautiful thing now is that we have an ADR judge, or we have ADR judges who would endorse your mediated agreement if it's agreeable to you, the parties. And then that will have the same thing that you wanted. It's just a thing of the mind. You want the force of law, you want enforcement, you don't want a mere contract. Now we are foreseeing that we have it now. Please come to us. But if we assess you and we see the nature of the claim, we see the parties, we know they can afford it, we want to bill appropriately, which means our mediators who are professionals in their respective field of endeavor, should enjoy the practice, so to speak. So it should be a matter of give and take. It should be a win-win for everybody. Yet they are still regulating the cost, making sure that it's not exorbitant, it's still within something which will be reasonable, just like arbitration, On the other side, on the other hand, on the flip side, they have, oriented themselves to the extent that while we want to do this, if we have indigents who cannot afford this process, if we call on you, or if they choose that they want to submit their disputes to you, please don't say no. They now have a third backup plan. They have trained some of their staff, who are salary, public servants, they earn their salary. So they will not depend on what you want to give them as a party. or what they would get from, mediating. So these people would be there to attend to these indigents, just to make sure that at the end of the day, they achieve the overall goal for which the multi-door courthouse, was created. And I think it's a very beautiful one. Although that's what they have in mind. They haven't really achieved it, but I believe strongly that if they continue to forge on like that, it's going to be a very outstanding and remarkable thing. So one thing that I want to mention today, there's this set of mediators in Nigeria that believe that mediation should be done free of charge, should be this, should be that. If we continue, like, some people would only appreciate something that they pay for. And I keep telling people that you can mediate oil and gas matters. You can mediate, there's in fact, for me, there's no matter that you cannot intervene in by way of mediation. It only depends on your level of expertise and exposure. So I think we need to get the message right. And first of all, we mediators, we need to understand the true concepts of mediation and understand the fact that we can expand access to justice by commercializing.
Your volume has gone down, Banke. Your volume has suddenly gone.
Sorry.
Did you touch something? Did you touch something? Because your mic volume has gone down.
Sorry?
Your mic volume suddenly dropped. Did you touch something?
Sorry about that. It's like interrupting.
Can hear you, but not really hear you. That kind of thing. I think those headphones of yours are useful. Last time when you used those, I think those were good. Because suddenly, I don't know what changed suddenly.
My phone is not.
Yes, now it's okay. Now it's okay. But Banke, Banke, I will put across my point. The point that I've been making, and I'm quite some time, I'm saying that the colonizer had brought in this concept that dispute resolution happens in courts and lawyers have to be part of it. Right? That's the way the colonizer put it. So what, with the multi-door courthouse, you have reinforced that even mediation, which is a dispute resolution method, is also happening in courts. So what you're telling people again is that courts is where dispute resolution happens. And that has to be broken up, because finally you have to move away from the court system. And of course, reform the court system. That's another thing. Why are you inefficient? Why are people waiting for 10 years? Why is a person put into jail? What is the concept of the jail? Why the colonizer's jail you've taken up? All those things as a whole reform process. So let that be a separate thing we'll talk about later. Let's look at just mediation. Mediation has nothing to do with the court system. No connection at all. An adversarial process and a party-driven process where they're amicably sorting something are totally different. Processes are totally different. I don't know whether in Nigeria, how you put it, like we have Ayurveda in India. Ayurveda is a natural form of, of course, curing ailments and all. And then you have the what we call the modern medicine and that kind of thing. They're two different concepts. So now if I say that the people who are the doctors in modern science are going to tell us how Ayurveda is going to be practiced, I think we are getting it wrong. And that is again a colonizer's concept. So the concept of Ayurveda is still heard of in other parts of the world. But what about all those natural ways, all the natural remedies in Nigeria? All those things also got lost. Colonization had an effect on a lot of things. So mediation being something which is totally a different process, let not the courts even get into it. That's my concept there. The other aspect of not paying the mediator and saying access to justice, I don't say it's access to justice at all. There is no justice. A person came into a court because he felt he has some rights, whatever. He came there. You told him, look, it'll take 10 years. It'll cost you so much. Why don't you settle? The person settled because you put a gun on the person's head, off the time, off the cost. He did not go out happy. That's not justice. You become efficient. The court system becomes efficient. Person wants to come to the courts to get that justice, give it to in the court. But the person did not come to settle because you are inefficient. So that access to justice is no justice. People are wanting, courts are wanting you to say that. Want to say that is, how is it access to justice? It's zero access to justice, I'm saying. So let's not even get into what arguments are being created by an inefficient judiciary. they'll keep doing this. They'll keep doing that because they don't want to do their job, maybe, or whatever their reason is. They're denying justice, is what I tell people. I've been saying for so long, justice delayed is justice denied. So I think that aspect of how it has all got merged into the court system. On the second part of the amount being paid to the mediator, again, of people who can't afford it, there is legal aid in litigation. So if a person can't afford it, you go for legal aid. But isn't the litigating lawyer charging for what they do? Isn't the arbitrator charging for what they do? So if someone cannot afford it, that's a different thing. That's pro bono activity that people do for people who can't afford. Today, people are very nicely saying, litigating lawyers in court mediation centers are saying, I do this pro bono. I am saying your pro bono is someone else's livelihood. A person could practice as a mediator and they're passionate about it, cannot practice it because you are giving it free. You're not giving it pro bono. We have to divide the distinction between the two. Pro bono is given to someone who can't afford it. Free is given to someone who can afford it. And you're giving it free to people who can afford it. They walk into a court. The second part of it, I'm telling you, there's a very senior mediator in Nigeria. He's a lawyer with 40 years of experience. He came on one of the shows. He's been coming earlier. He said, I am a mediator in the court. I walk in there in the Lagos multi-door courthouse. I am looked at as an inferior person because of the amount I'm paid. The lawyer walks in, has a different status in that court. So you are creating an inferior class in people's mind. Oh, this guy gets amount as my clerk. They don't even take you seriously. He's saying this. I mean, this is a very senior mediator saying this. We are creating a lot of issues relating, again, I'm saying connecting to colonization, because you want to keep dispute resolution under your umbrella of the court system. Has to be taken out. Like I said about forced, I mean, mandatory mediation and everything you keep talking about. I don't hear people saying mandatory arbitration. Give the arbitrator the same amount that you give a mediator. Give the litigating lawyer the same amount that you give a mediator in the Lagos court or any other multi-door courthouse. We make it even. All your lawyers will burn down the courthouse. They will stop entire proceedings. The mediation center will be closed. Everything will close. It's just the way that whole concept is developed around lawyers and the judicial system, all in hand on that end. They are going to do things for each other on that end. On the mediator part, we have to develop it. Mediation is not going to develop. No one is ever going to value something that they can get for $40. And on the other end, a litigating lawyer, I don't know how much he would charge, maybe a few thousands of dollars there. I don't know how, I mean, that you would know better. But this class distinction that's been created and is being created, I think we need to fight against that. But what I found interesting was your Nollywood. Nollywood, you call it. Is it the Nigerian film industry? You call that Nollywood? Because we call it
Yes,
Bollywood.
yes.
Here
I
we,
know. I know. And in America, they call it Hollywood.
yeah, so I'm saying,
You know,
yeah.
you know what? You know what? I believe in diversity and inclusion. Honestly, I've seen access to justice in the multi-door courthouse system. I've seen parties who are genuinely happy with what you introduce to them, because you see, I think it depends on what you have in your mind. I've seen judiciaries who genuinely want to meet the needs of the people. They are being humble by admitting that we have these problems right now, and we need to continue to help people to resolve their disputes. I've seen the genuineness, the sincerity in some judiciaries, because I relate with them a lot. And mind you, I train too, and I train based on the modern mediation system, but I am saying now that we should diversify and help everybody to connect with what they want to connect with. I am telling you that in Nigeria today, we have informal, well, I don't like calling it informal or formal, because who defines the formality or otherwise? But we have a lot of indigenous mediation in Nigeria today. It's there, this thing is there. You may just want to look at the various palaces, what the kings and the high chiefs and the chiefs are doing within every community in Nigeria. But what I am saying, what Banke is saying is that we should give them a mic. We should help their voices to be heard. We should help them to project what they're doing. We should showcase it. We should give everybody this equal opportunity to choose. and help people, to like, you see, again, who are you advocating for? This is a question that I always ask if I see an advocate. What if what I am advocating for doesn't meet the true need of that person or these people that I seem to be representing? We have a set of people that still want litigation. I think we should allow them to enjoy that. It's their choice. But we should project mediation in such a way that it will be something that everybody would want to naturally submit to, which means we should encourage private institutions to bring up, to come up, spring up, and thrive effectively. We should not monopolize. Don't place the multi-door courthouse over and above any other form of mediation. And the beautiful thing in the various multi-door courthouse laws, rules, practice directions is that, because I've looked at them, they all seem to have this rule saying that if people bring settlement agreement from anywhere, any institution within my locality, and they want me to endorse it just because they have that belief that they need that endorsement, they need that force of law, we are still here for them. We will endorse it and help them to achieve that. And I think that's a beautiful one.
I tell you, now, Banke, again, you're falling for the colonization trap. That you have to
No,
come.
no,
No, no,
no.
no, no,
I disagree with
I'm
you.
telling you. No,
I
no.
disagree with you. The
Banke,
fact that
no,
I
let me
now
go
have my
ahead.
own
Let
mind.
me go ahead.
No,
No, I'm going ahead. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'm
no,
telling you.
no, no, no,
If you
no,
listen to
no.
me, I'll tell you, Banke, I'll tell you. No, no, why I'll tell you for where you're falling into trap, that come to the court and we will endorse it. We have a very good law on mediation where the act itself says that your settlement agreement is as good as a court decree. You don't have to come to court. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that the whole colonized aspect that you must come to court. No, you don't have to go to court. Our law is such so nice. You read it. It's very simple, very simple. A layman can understand it. No process, flexible. Appoint your own mediator. Confidentiality without prejudice, protected by law. Like I said, your settlement agreement, you have to sign it. That's it. And of course, the person, it's called conciliation. It comes that the conciliator signs it, and it becomes a court decree. Sitting in your village in one part of India, you get a court decree in your hand. That's where you break out of this whole concept coming to court. We have to stop the coming to court. That we have to, just that whole concept that dispute resolution happens in courts in some way. Even this thing that you come to the court and endorse it is again part of that. So we have to break that totally. I mean, there has to be no connection there. That's for sure. But the other aspect of course, yeah, please.
You know what I'll say on that. Which court are you talking about? In your mind, what court do you have in mind? The interpretation of court might be subjective at this point, because the traditional rulers, they have what I call what they have is a court.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yes. So for me, you see, if we go that line, we might need to redefine so many things. But I feel that we may hold on to what we have right now, where we are exploring other options. Because while you're looking at that, you have to also look at the challenges that might bring on board. Now, colonization is a thing of the mind. For me, it is a thing of the mind. That you are ruling me, that you are in charge of my life, is a thing of what I have here. If I decide to learn from you and I adopt and adapt, I do not just adopt without thinking. For me, that is not colonization.
Perfect. No, Banke, I'll go a step ahead in relation to the process. When we say that in our community, this has been practiced, what I keep saying is that mediation is moral values, ethics, principles, humanistic approach. That's what that mediation is about, and that is what needs to be promoted. That you want to collaborate with the other person, you understand the other person. Let's sit together. Let's see how we can work this out. That's the mediation that I want to develop. The other side, if you say related to the court system and that mediation, is it deal making really? Is it deal making, like I said, or is it just I pressurize you because of the court system being inefficient. So that's another concept of mediation. Both are totally different and totally different ways of going about it. So what I'm trying to say is, let's develop it at the grassroots level to the point when that culture develops in, say, children. Of course, children are going to be important to start there, in communities, that even if it's a community matter, taste the flavor of mediation, to sit together and, like I said, understand each other, humanistic approach, all those things, and develop it from there. And I know it's going to take time, it's not going to happen in a day, but at least we'll put a foundation which will be strong, because the community is going to understand it from a very different perspective. And that's where
Absolutely.
for me, the decolonization aspect is this aspect, that it is a totally different process. That process has lots to do with collaboration. It's, like I said, I'll keep repeating these things where I keep saying heart, soul, spirituality. You'll hear this a lot of times, Banke. I had a symposium on heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation. Those elements are what brings, for me, what brings mediation to the mediation that I want. Those are elements which are not spoken about. So let's bring that, because our communities, be it India, be it Nigeria, we have a similar cultural aspect of it. We have this community aspect of it, which has broken down. I'm not saying it still exists everywhere. Here also communities are broken down, because obviously urbanization and materialism, all that is happening. But we are still 60% rural. You are 200 million population. We are 1.4 billion population. Our rural population is almost a billion people. So to take it there, to be able to have those people take it up as a process, which is their process, and the legal backing is available. Your settlement agreement is as good as a court decree. You don't have to come to the court. You can sit in your village and do it, no problem at all. So there is no requirement. That's the law that we have today. But the colonization aspect of it, a bill has been put into our parliament, was put into our parliament, which was sent back. There was a standing committee which gave its recommendation, sent back. Luckily, it was not passed. If you see that law, that bill, and you see the current law, which is called conciliation, which people are confusing, saying we don't have a law on mediation, whereas it's the best law on mediation. No one is even looking at the definition of mediation. Today, the only definition of mediation is available for us in the Singapore Convention, because we signed that convention. That's the only place a definition of mediation is available. Otherwise, people are talking about mediation. And luckily, that definition is nice and broad, and our conciliation fits into that definition. So we have a law on mediation. But just have a look at that, and have a look at the bill, and you will see how colonization has got into the head, that the state has to be part of things. So that part of it, definitely we need to get out. Then the whole concept of, you said institutions should be developed. For me, that's another concept in mediation, which is going to, that they should exist, I'm sure, perfectly all right, but they are just a facilitator in providing infrastructure. They do not mediate. We have to develop mediators, because they're people who mediate, and institutions definitely don't mediate. So if we have to bring out those people should identify people, because once you say institution, that this person is the panel of that institution, we have given the institution some importance, as if the institution is going to mediate. And again, I'm saying colonization, the whole concept that we will have some respect for an institution. In this, there is no institution. An individual has to sit with you and mediate. That is the only way you can mediate. No institution can sit there. No. So we have to be able to tell people that these are mediators who mediate, and this is you value them, you trust them, whatever you have to do. But it's individuals we have to develop. That's the only way mediation is going to develop for me. I don't know. I mean, of course, there will be the other side of mediation, which is going around, which is that, of course, there will be, of course, commercial mediation. There will be some institution which will develop, which have developed. You just have a look at their numbers. There is one in Singapore. In the last, I think, since the time they started in 1994, I think they've done. Uh, okay, exact figure I will be able. I mean, it's like, in numbers is nothing. It's nothing, and the number of disputes we have in our countries, it's in a different level altogether. So mediation is discussed only around these institutions, which is nothing in terms of numbers. I mean, the one, I think they've done some, I think 100 or something in some many years or something. I'll give you the figures. I mean, I don't have them here. You'll be amazed that that is what mediation is spoken about. What about all these people at every community, every village, everywhere, that they have disputes? Have you ever looked at the numbers there? and you're trying to say that this mediation that you're talking about is applicable to them. I think we got that whole concept somewhere wrong, but we take it from there. So, Banke, what is your, is there a concluding remark? Was look, Preeti has a session, but for some reason she hasn't come in. So we have time. So no problem at all. I don't know what happened, why she hasn't come in. I haven't got a message from her yet. So
Well, my concluding remarks would be that we should always do what is we should bring our respective inner beauty out, because you see, while listening to you now, I realized that you see, as by training, I'm a legal practitioner, but most of the time I try to be very realistic when I'm having this kind of conversation. So let's look at the dictionary meaning of institution. What is an institution? The indigenous societies that constitute the modern day Nigeria had their respective institutions. That's the truth. We have our ways of doing things, and respect is part of our culture. So I don't know the name that you might want to call that respect right now. You know, so if I am talking based on what is obtainable in my community, I see a lot of similarities. We only use different English to qualify what we can see. So what I think we should do is that in India, do what is indigenous to you. Do what will make most of the people, if not all, happy. In Nigeria, do what is indigenous to you. Do what will make your people happy. And if your people want diversity, in mediation, there are always possibilities. I will not say no. Saying no might be me trying to colonize my own people internally, which is a major problem that we have in Nigeria today. Because in Nigeria today, we have colonized ourselves right within the country. I don't know if you understand the point I'm trying to make, but I won't go into that because it's not a subject for today. Be true to yourself as a country, as a people. That's what I would say. And I'll say it again. These traditional rulers in their various communities are doing beautiful things. Nigerian government should pay more attention to them and try to appreciate them and, you know, bring them on board as major stakeholders within the dispute resolution field. Saying that we should forget about the court structure in itself today, realistically speaking, might be tantamount to saying that we should, you know, build a house and use it to throw it away or to uproot it simply because we think it's not good enough. That might really affect the whole country because a lot of investment has gone into it. And truly
that's correct.
speaking,
I think maybe I got you got me wrong. I'm saying that that court system, if people come to that because they trust that, you become
that's it.
efficient. No, what I'm saying is you become efficient and give them whatever. If you call, they want that justice, is that what they want? That is your access to justice. Give it to them in an efficient manner. Don't put
I
someone
agree.
in. I'll tell you, give you an example. You put this whole colonial structure of law, you can put someone behind bars. You can send someone to jail. The person is innocent up till proven guilty. The whole concept of that trial is going to take years in Nigeria, which happens in India also. But you can put the person behind bars. Is that something which in today, in this day and age of, first of all, being a people's government and everything, on what basis have you sent the person behind a colonial structure of a jail? Is that the way traditionally you would want to do it to someone? Take away someone's, because you can do it because you picked up the laws that the colonizer gave you. But whether are you look at that, is that something you can do to someone? The person is innocent. Give that person justice in 1 hour. You can't put someone, take away someone's freedom for even 1 hour because you are inefficient. Do not go fall for that concept that okay, this is the law. This is a law that you have picked up. I'll tell you, in India, about 1,500 acts were repealed, And if you read those acts, I mean, some of them are absurd, taken up from the colonial masters. We continue. So Preeti is here now. So we'll have to, it's her time now. So we'll have to take it up. So Banke, you were, hi Preeti.
Hi.
Just 1 minute. Banke was concluding because you were not here. We were using the time. So Banke, I think you want to conclude, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much. And please note that if you need me some other time, I will be fully available. Thank you so much for the amazing things you're doing.
Let me tell you, Banke, that there was the discussion was really interesting. If you want, with Bai who was before you, we are continuing the discussion on Tuesday at 7 o'clock India time, which will be 6:30 in San Francisco. Please drop in. I'll send you that. I mean, you know the details. On Tuesday, 27th at 7 o'clock India time. Just drop in, because this discussion, I think, is not good enough for 1 hour. So see you then. Thank you very much, Banke.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.